Hey, let's pause for a moment of science today and talk about conduction and convection. As you know, there are three different types of heat transfer. There is conduction, convection, and radiation. And we teach conduction and convection together because they both have to do with a heat transfer by touching. Then we teach radiation separately because radiation heats from a distance. So today we will focus on conduction and convection because they share the common theme of heat transferring through touch. On the board I'm going to write some notes. Maybe. All right. So when we talk about conduction, there are some key words that you will often hear. And I'm going to scoot you just a little bit closer here so you can see better. There you go. So with conduction, some key words is you will see touch, of course. Words that are in a question that might be talking about conduction will often talk about two objects that are touching. The objects during conduction are generally solids. So a solid to a solid, like a hand touching the handle on a pot that's hot, something like that. And I always tell the students the word duh. Often with conduction, the examples are a hand touching something. So if a hand is ever touching something that's hot, duh, you're going to get burnt. You don't touch a hot stove because duh, you're going to get burnt, as in conduction. So it's just a really cute way to remember conduction, as in duh, you're gonna get burnt. Some examples of conduction, well, there's lots of cooking. So if you are frying bacon, sausage, if you're, I don't know how to spell sausage, if you are making a steak, these are all things that can be cooked through conduction. And of course they are in a pan, not a grill. These are objects that are items that are cooked on a pan. Now let's go over here and let's talk a little bit about convection. Convection also is with touch, but generally when you have convection, you are heating through gases or a liquid. Now there are lots of different types of gases and lots of different types of liquids, but some common ones that we see in 5th grade are, we'll just say in general, just air. Plain old, non-fancy, non-scientific air. And then for liquids, water is a very popular one, but you could also have oil. I mean, you can even have something crazy like milk, coffee, those are all things. Now I don't have a really cool, I don't have like as in convection. I don't have anything, you just have to know that one. But some examples that you will see, a hot air balloon. I can't draw, they don't let me teach art here. But a hot air balloon is convection. Anytime you are boiling noodles, and I will do like little all that, but boiling anything, that will also be convection. So again, conduction and convection are two types of heat transfer. We teach them together because they share the common theme of touch. If they are solids that are touching, that's duh, conduction. And if they are heating through gas or liquid, that is convection. All right, so what I have is I have a pan that is hooked into the power so that we start getting some heat and it's heating it up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some popcorn to the pan. And it's conduction because the pan is directly touching the popcorn. Do you guys know how, does anybody know how popcorn actually pops? What happens to it to make it like pop? Tell me. You got it. It gets bigger by the heat. So in science words, what we would say is that as the kernel is heated, what happens to things that get heated? They expand, they expand, but it is in a little hard, crunchy shell. And that hard, crunchy shell doesn't stretch. So when it gets so big that it's swelling and expanding, it pops out of the shell because the shell doesn't stretch. It just has to kind of pop out. So that's what's happening. Now, we're already getting some heat, but I need something to trap the heat in. I need, what would you call this? A lid, but in science, what would you call it? If it traps the heat in, what would you call it? Insulator, that's right, it's an insulator. So let's just give it a chance to do its thing, holding that heat in. Okay, so what I have here is I have a machine that's a hot air popper, and it heats popcorn through convection because it blows hot air around the kernels that heats them up, and as they heat up, they expand, and then they pop. So I will put popcorn in here, and I will add the insulator to trap the heat, and the popcorn will pop.